Hi guys, Kevin Lee Jacobs here. Today I'm going to take a head of cabbage and some salt and turn them into sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is a crunchy condiment with tons of health benefits. Too many health benefits for me to mention, but I will tell you that sauerkraut contains more lactobacillus than even yogurt. So let me reposition the camera and let's get down to sauerkraut making. This particular head of cabbage weighs 3.5 pounds, and what I'm going to do is remove some of the ugly outer leaves. But I'm not going to throw them away. Not just yet, anyway. I might need them later on. And here we go. Next, slice off the unattractive stem end, and then, summoning all your might, cut the cabbage in half. I'm going to do it this way, right from the top. Boom! Done. And I see some other leaves here that don't look terribly good, so I'm going to remove them. Actually, I'll just get rid of them the easy way, like that. And then we have to shred the cabbage. And first, before you shred, look for the core. I don't know if you can see this in this kind of light, but it's this hard triangular piece right here. So just use your knife to go around it and cut out the triangle like this. And I'm going to set this aside because I might need it later on. Then shred the cabbage. You could cut this in half again, but you really don't have to. I'm going to slice my cabbage by knife into, roughly 1/4-inch pieces. And actually, I don't need to bore you by making you watch me shred all of this cabbage, so I'll turn the camera off, finish the shredding, and then I'll come back. And here is my great big mountain of shredded cabbage. I need to weigh this because weight determines the amount of salt that will be needed for the cabbage. Actually, before I weigh it, I have to first put my little scale over here. Can you see this? Yes, you can. So this is a simple, inexpensive digital scale. And what you do is put an empty bowl on it, and then you press the on button. And mine is set to pound. And in goes the cabbage. We are at almost 2 pounds. Let's see if we have 2 pounds total. We do. We have 2.6 pounds. Now we have, for some reason, 2.2 pounds. You went down. Okay, so roughly 2 pounds. That's all I need to know. Then I'm going to dump all the shreds back onto my cutting board, and you'll see why in just a moment. We have to take our salt, and remembering we have 2 pounds of cabbage, we will need 2 tablespoons of salt. So in go, and we want to layer the cabbage on the salt. So put a layer of cabbage in the bowl, and then add some of the salt. Then add another, and give it a little squish just to disperse the salt. Then add a little more cabbage, and a little more salt, and a little more cabbage, and more salt, and try to remember to squish after every addition of salt. And I've used 1 tablespoon. You guys try to remember how much salt I've used because I might ask you afterwards in case I forget. As if you could answer on this video. Squish, squish. And this this cabbage will fill up this entire large bowl, but it's going to shrink down because the salt is going to cause the juices from the cabbage to be exuded. And that was 2 tablespoons, right? I'll add my other cabbage here. And then you do squish it together, or just squish it in any old way, give it a little toss, and then we are going, here's an ugly piece of cabbage, out it goes, and then let this sit for 30 minutes so that juices will be exuded. Then we're going to come back and squish some more. That's a fun thing to do. So I'll be right back. My cabbage and salt have been lounging and luxuriating together for about 20 minutes. So let me show you what it looks like now. Sorry, didn't mean to make you dizzy there. And as you can see, I ended up dividing the cabbage between 2 large bowls. I thought it would just be easier to videotape this way. Now look at all of the moisture that's coming out of the cabbage. The moisture is the brine in which the cabbage will ferment. So you want to squeeze and squeeze, for 5-10 minutes longer until you think you have squozen out all of the juice that you possibly can. And let me dry my hands so I can turn the camera off, and I will come back. My cabbage has exuded as much of its liquid as it is going to exude for now, so we can move on to the next step. And that means wiping your hand on a blue towel. Always keep a blue towel available when you are making sauerkraut. I'm going to move 1 bowl of cabbage into the first bowl, and this aside. And now I have a 8-cup canning jar. Let me move the camera up a little bit so you can see. And I've set it in the bowl, and you could use a crock in which to ferment your cabbage, but a canning jar will certainly do the trick. And then we want to get the cabbage into the jar. I picked up one of these cheap little canning funnels this morning from my local hardware store. It cost $3, and you certainly don't need one. I may not even use mine. Move the camera up yet some more, and we need to put the cabbage into the jar. And this funnel was an absolute waste of money. Bang, bang, bang. So I'm not going to use it at all. Aren't you happy about that? Now, in goes the cabbage. And the reason I put the jar in a bowl is to catch all of the cabbage that doesn't quite make it into the jar. And I have a lot of cabbage to put in here, so I will turn the camera off and come back to show you the next step. It looks like my jar hath nearly runneth over, But no worries, take an ordinary rolling pin, actually I'm using a French rolling pin, or a wooden spoon, the handle part, and pound the cabbage down. And we will probably end up with pounded cabbage that consumes only half the jar. And that will be just perfect. Pound, 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 pound. I'll tell you, every step of this sauerkraut making process is not only easy to do, but it's fun to do. You can take out a lot of your aggression when you make sauerkraut. And then we need to pour the brine that remains in the bowl into the jar. Well, and here's where that funnel will come in handy, I suppose. And in it goes. And I'll come right back to show you the next step. I'm sorry about that last turn off. I needed to reposition the camera, and also I realized that things were out of focus, so I ended up switching the camera to manual instead of autofocus, which meant I needed to turn some wheels. Anyway, I want you to see that the brine has come up what looks like about 1/2 inch over the cabbage. So what I'm doing now is taking a thin spatula so that I can scrape down any of the shredded cabbage that is clinging to the side of the jar. You want all of the cabbage to be submerged under the brine. And if it looks like you don't have enough brine, what you do is take some water, some cold water, and let's say a cup of cold water, and add some salt, maybe a teaspoon or so, and just pour it over the cabbage so that you end up with about 1 inch or so of brine over the cabbage. Just pushing this down a little bit. Then, for insurance, do you remember the cabbage leaves that I removed earlier? Here's one, and I've washed it, and I'm going to insert it into the jar so that it sits right on top of the shreds. And then, for extra insurance, I'm going to take a jelly jar. This is a jar that previously held red currant jelly. Any small jar would work. And you push it down, and I hope you can see that the brine is rising even higher. And that brine, by the way, will continue to rise during the fermentation process. The salt will dissolve, and more juice will be exuded. Okay, so I have my jar in here, and the final step is to cover the jar. We have to keep this at room temperature so that the friendly bacteria can grow. And coffee filter, and I'm going to put a blue rubber band. Blue is very important, of course. Also happens to be my favorite color. And the rubber band will secure the coffee filter as a lid. This way, dust and debris won't fall into the jar. And I'm going to set this on my counter and let it continue to ferment for 2 to 3 days. Then I will give it a taste, and if it has plenty of zing, I'll know it's good to go. If it's not zinging enough, I will let it ferment for another 2 days, at which point it should be just right. It should taste delicious. And then I will put a proper lid on the jar, and I will store it in the refrigerator for, up to 2 months. But homemade sauerkraut is so delicious, it won't even last 2 months. Fortunately, as you've just seen, it's really, really easy to make. And again, it's a very healthy condiment to eat. So let me move the camera up so you can see me for my closing statement, which I have not prepared at all. Up you go. Up, rise, camera, rise. And there we go. Can you see me now? There, you can see me if I bend down. Okay, so here's my wonderful sauerkraut, and I hope you will give it a try someday. Again, super easy to do, super delicious to eat. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'll see you next time with another delicious recipe. Oh, don't forget to leave a comment. I love hearing from you. Bye for now. Hey, I'm back. I forgot to tell you that in a couple of days, the brine will start to bubble, and that's how you'll know that fermentation is taking place. So don't worry about all those bubbles, okay? And again, I'll see you next time. Bye.